Hello everyone, it is July 19th, 2019, and this is today's tech vlog. I've got a couple of updates, some kind of cool things, some that are just gonna be talking points, basically, that aren't all that interesting. The first one is that I built myself a desk, and I had put a lot of thought, or rather, I had wanted to build a desk for a very long time, and in less than 24 hours, I had decided I hate my old desk, I'm getting rid of it, I'm building a new one, and then I had myself a desk. So before we get too far into it, let me show you part of what the problem was, or at least try to explain it. So this was my desk surface right here. This is actually two pieces of Rubbermaid shelving. It's nothing crazy. It wasn't the cheapest thing I could find, but it's solid. It's not garbage. And I had to screw the two pieces together with some ties there. But the issue, or one of the issues, was that this piece right here, which is the middle, the piece between the two legs, you can see one of the feet of the legs right there. This piece is just over 4 feet long, and I mean 4 foot 1 inch. These pieces of shelving are exactly 4 feet long. So that means, well, I didn't know that at the time when I was buying the shelving, so I had to improvise, and I used some L brackets. So the L bracket would kind of go like that, kind of go up and then over. So the over would connect to the middle piece, and the up part would connect to the desk surface. And it worked really well for 2 years, honestly. I didn't have any issues with that. And a couple days ago, about a week ago now, I don't even know what I put on the desk. It wasn't anything terribly heavy, but the whole front half bent down and it ripped both sides, actually, of the where the desk was attached off. And I decided, you know what? That and the fact that I kicked this stupid freaking thing every day I came down here with my shins, I want to get rid of it. I don't like it anymore. Now that I'm obviously moved in, we've been here for 2 years, I can put in something a little bit different. So, if you're still with me, after explaining that, here's what I decided to do. I had a couple requirements. One was, of course, that it's cheap. The other was that it is sturdy. And the other is that it's functional, I guess. Sturdy and cheap were kind of the two that I really wanted to make sure I covered, because I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. And what I ended up spending was about $65 to $70. It wasn't all that expensive, and it's a lot better than anything you could just buy at a store for work surfaces, in my opinion. So, very basic 2x4 construction. I think the ones that go this way are 45 inches long. Then I've got 2 footers on each end that draw them together and make a rectangle. On top of that, I've got 1/4 inch, or excuse me, 1/2 inch plywood, and it's just screwed right to the top. It's all very, very, very solid, which, again, something I was going for. And then for legs, I simply screwed in a piece of 2x4 that I measured, because this floor is very uneven. And from where that is to where my other leg is over there is about 1.5 inches different, which is quite significant. So yeah, I screwed those in from the side and from the front, so they're not going anywhere. Very sturdy. And I've secured the whole thing, actually, to the wall, so that not only will it not rock, but it's also, you know, one of my concerns was that if I ever put a whole lot of weight on it, for example, if I stood on it, Now that I think of it, I guess it wouldn't have been an issue. But if I stood on it and it started to lean over, I'm honestly kind of afraid those legs would have broken or collapsed under the right circumstances. Now that I say that, of course, that doesn't seem all that plausible. I could have just taken the legs on the back and turned them 90 degrees, so that would be less likely. But anyway, yeah, that's what I did, and I built a second one over here. Unfortunately, I did have a little bit of an issue here in the corner, so that I don't know what you call it, just that area over there that's bumping out is where the gas comes into the house, the natural gas. It's where the gas meter is, and it's where you can see that pipe that goes across there. The gas goes over to everything else in the basement. For some reason, it was really stupid that I thought this, but I thought that thing was completely... I thought it was a square. I thought it was... what was it, 20 inches this way? That's what I thought it was. And I thought it was 20 inches that way. Well, it turns out it's only 16 inches from that wall. So I had to do some wow, screwed that word up. I had to improvise. And instead of... Basically what I was going to do was I was going to make this gap over here between that this thing here, I don't even know what to call it, and the desk. I was going to make that about, I think it was 4 inches or something, on purpose, because that would give me some room to run cables. It would give me room to attach my monitor arm. That was the idea. And then I do the same on this one. So that would not only keep it simple, but I wouldn't have to notch out the edge of this section of desk. Well, I changed my plans because it turned out that that gap, it just wasn't going to work out because of the difference. So, yeah, I changed my plans a little bit. Ended up notching out, I think it was a 2 inch by 4 inch section there. But it's okay because, you know, it looks fine. I meant to talk about this a little bit earlier before I got 7.5 minutes into the video, but what I decided to do for the desk surface. I took some inspiration from David Murray, the 8-bit guy, formerly the iBook guy, and he made, I think it was like maybe a 2 or 3 part series, if I'm remembering that correctly, on making a cheap work surface or a desk. And what he used, I think, were they were floor tiles, and these are self-adhesive floor tiles. So I went with these for a couple reasons. One, because they're pretty cheap. They're about $1 a piece, and I only used 8 of them because they're 1 foot by 1 foot, so it covers quite a bit of surface. And if I wanted to, I'm not going to do it right now, but they're very, very easy to peel up. For example, if I had my soldering iron over here, and let's say it fell off, or I don't know, something happened and it sat on the desk surface for a couple seconds and made a big gouge, I could replace that. I just peel up the tile, stick a new one down. I bought a whole box of them because it was just cheaper to do it that way and have some extras. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with how it turned out. They feel nice. I know that they're not pretty. They're not an ideal look for a professional desk, but this is not professional. That's not the intent of this desk. This is supposed to be functional for what I do down here, which is working on computers, disassembling them, doing all sorts of stuff. So I got a little bit of cleanup to do over there so I can regain some room. But I am really happy with how this turned out. So that is the desk update. A couple other things that I wanted to mention, because this is a tech vlog after all. This Mac Pro. So I sold one of the 3,1 Mac Pros. I had something to say about that. Oh, it was the one with 20 gigs of RAM. This one has 32 and a GTX 680. So I was talking to a guy about that he really wants it. He's very interested, which is good. And, excuse me, we started talking about some of the things that he might need. And basically what we decided was that I would throw in an extra hard drive, no charge, technically. And I had a brand new 240 gig SSD that I'd install, clone the installation over to that, and he'd have an SSD in this thing. And I must say, this is running Mojave right now, which on a 2008 Mac Pro is not supported at all. You had to use, or I had to use, the Mojave patcher from DOSDude 1. He has some really nice utilities and tools on his website, by the way. And yeah, it runs like a charm. With an SSD especially, this thing screams. So the night that he asked if I could do that, and we decided that was the route to go, I had a couple other things I kind of needed to do, should have done, but I put them off and decided to do them later because this is going to get me some money, and he wanted to come pick it up the next day. I can afford to put off the things that I was going to do. Well, you can probably see where this is going. The next day, thankfully I didn't give him my address or anything, so I'm not worried about that. But I texted him a couple times. He didn't respond. He had asked me to call him, so I decided, well, I'll call him. No response. I decided to try to leave a voicemail. Voicemail's full. Called him back a second time that night, and nothing. So finally I sent him a text and said, if you don't want it, that's fine. Just let me know because I have other people interested. And he hasn't said anything yet. So I'm going to give him probably one more day, and then I'm going to assume he's not interested. And bring it to somebody else. So that is that. A couple of thoughts about this thing, by the way. I had considered using this as my own Mac Pro down here. But I really got to thinking, I don't really need it. I can't think of a practical use for it, first of all. And I can't really justify running it all the time, for example, as a server, because it uses so much more power than other things I have that are much more powerful than this. It just doesn't make sense. The only thing it really has going for it is it's got dual optical drive, which is something I wanted, or something I like to have. You can put multiple GPUs, multiple expansion cards. It's got a lot of RAM in it, but I don't know. I just couldn't think of a reason to keep it, to be honest, and I'd rather have money so I can buy something else that I'd rather have. You've kind of seen this on the side now. This is Dell Optiplex. It's a 7010. I might have mentioned this in the last vlog. I don't remember, but this... I'm a bit upset with this machine right now, and it's all my fault, but I can still be upset at an inanimate object. The GPU I wanted to put in here, we'll keep this one pretty brief. The GPU I wanted to put in, this GTX 780, is about a half inch too long for where it would go. So it just kind of bumps up against where the, what am I trying to say? Yeah, it bumps up against the drive place, the place where you slide the drive caddies into. And I already have 2 hard drives and an SSD in here. I really need a place to put those hard drives, so I really can't afford to cut that thing out of there, or the only thing I could really do is relocate it, so maybe drill out all the rivets, and instead of having it sit flat, have it turn 90 degrees. I could do that, but I was just upset. So I guess I should say I wasn't initially upset with that, because I did have a GTX 680, which I also have one of right there, and it is about 3/4 of an inch to an inch shorter. So it fits in there just fine. Well, what I was going to use this thing for was was NVENC accelerated video decoding or encoding, or compressing, whatever you want to call it, with Handbrake. Handbrake supports that NVIDIA NVENC, and yeah, that's what I was going to use it for. And damn it, the 680 doesn't support that. Grr. So that thing has been just kind of sitting there for now. I'm upset with it, so it's going to stay. I also need to fix the macOS partition, because it is my Hackintosh as well, because it doesn't like to boot up after I install that GPU. It just kind of hangs. So I need to find a fix for that. I think I know what the issue is, but I gotta actually go ahead and do it. Not much has changed with the GX240 over here. Haven't had a chance to work on it, so it's just been sitting. This, I think I mentioned this in the last vlog. This is the Alienware Aurora R4. I got it all ready for my buddy. I'm gonna try to wrap this up because we're going on 16 minutes. Got this ready for my buddy. Great machine, performs super well, and I had it running down here for a couple months on and off, and got it to him. All right, everything's good. The next day he calls me, says it won't turn on. So I went over there, reseated the RAM, tried to see if maybe that was an issue, because that is a common problem. Nope, that didn't solve it. Took it home, did probably 4.5 hours of troubleshooting on it before I decided I'm just going to take the motherboard out. Took a look at the motherboard, and the back of it, it was very strange. And I've never seen this on another board, but underneath where the VRM cooler is, which is of course the VRMs, duh, all of those VRMs where they were soldered on the back of the board, they had all lifted off, broken off the solder pads. And there was enough damage that even though I tried to fix it and resolder it, it wasn't coming back. I've never seen that happen before, but I was a bit upset about that. So I stripped it for parts, and coincidentally, there's nothing left in this, by the way. No power supply, no RAM, no CPU. It's just a case, some plastics, and the motherboard. That's it. Coincidentally, the next day, I found what really is, as far as I know, the last one of these R4s that I'm going to be able to get my hands on. And I can't believe that I even found it, especially considering it was the day after my friend returned the other one to me. So I got this one already. I actually took the board out, double-checked everything. I added some more solder, or rather touched up some of the solder joints. So there's no chance of that happening again, at least as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, this thing is ready to go once again. So we'll see how that turns out. In case you're curious, it's got an i7-3820, GTX 780, 16 gig of RAM, and now it's got an SSD in it as well. So yeah, that's what's happening with that. And lastly, not much to talk about here, but I did sell my other 3 comma 1, so I've just got my 1 comma 1. I think I had mentioned last time the cosmetic flaw this one has, which is a really aesthetically pleasing gouge down the side of it. So thought that was kind of interesting to note. But yeah, anyway guys, that is it for this one. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you can think of anything or saw anything you want me to discuss, then by all means go ahead and put that in the comments. And I guess we'll see you whenever the next tech vlog happens to be. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.